People say Alaska is all about the views, but no one told me how unreal life feels on this ship. Live shows every night, endless buffets, fine dining, and windows that frame the wild. This wasn't adventure on land, it was luxury in motion. A floating city surrounded by nature's most powerful moments. Stay with me, because this cruise, it only got better every day. So, my wife and I are first time cruisers, and for our very first trip, we really just wanted to keep things simple. So, we picked an Alaska cruise that departs right from our hometown in Greater Vancouver. Check in for us was around noon, but luckily they allowed early boarding. So, we jumped on board as soon as possible because we just wanted to get started on the food. We chose the round trip cruise on the Grand Princess, which is a pretty big ship built in 1998 and can hold up to around 3,100 passengers. Since this was our first time cruising, we went with the most affordable option, an interior cabin with no windows, and we didn't add any drinks package or even anything extra. We just wanted to see if we liked cruising before spending more for the next time. Before boarding the cruise, you also get the option to either get the Princess Medallion, which is a small wearable device that works like your room key and lets you make onboard purchases. So you could either ship this to your address for a fee or collect it in person at the terminal for free. We chose to pick ours up at the ship to avoid any extra charges. Anyway, before we set sail, we took some time to explore this amazing ship and get familiar with the layout. Walking into the cruise ship, I was initially really confused because there are many floors. The Grand Princess actually has 17 floors in total, with 13 that is accessible to passengers. Most staterooms are on deck 8 through 12. However, mine is on deck 5 simply because we went with the cheapest option with no windows. So here is just a view of my room. Overall, really nice little washroom. It has everything you need to be comfortable, and the perk for me as well is that I like sleeping in the dark. So without any windows, I had a really good time sleeping. Since our cabin was on deck 5, this was also pretty cool because we were on the same floor as all the art installations around the ship. So it was just fun to wander around and check those out. Right above us on deck 6, it was the casino. Sounds really exciting, but unfortunately, this particular cruise line did not offer poker tables, at least for the Grand Princess. It was a bummer for me since I really hoped to play some poker, but it's okay. Deck 14 was the buffet, and honestly, that's what I looked forward to every single day on a cruise. I loved eating, and I've never eaten this much in my life. So a little fun fact was that I actually gained 7 pounds during the trip when I weighed myself the last day. I was pretty much eating 2-3 plates every single meal, and yeah, mainly just protein and no carbs. So on the day of the cruise, make sure you arrive early on day 1 so you don't risk missing your cruise. There's really no point rushing last minute and giving yourself a scare. Bring all your important documents, including your passport, any cruise paperwork, or anything else you might need. If you also plan on buying things in Alaska, it might be a good idea to bring some USD dollars, or you can use your credit cards. Here's a pro tip for you, is to bring a small carry-on bag with your swimwear, even a change of clothes, or if you have medication even. Because if you check in your luggage, it might take a few hours for the porters to deliver those to your cabin. And this only applies to people who hand their luggage over at check-in, since you won't actually be able to access your room until around 2 p.m. on day 1. For us, we just decided to carry our stuff around since we only had a backpack and a small carry-on each, so it was pretty easy to manage. Shout out to our friend Jordan here who was in downtown Vancouver on the day we left. He came by Canada Place to see us off, which was really awesome. One of the coolest things about cruising is all the amenities the ship has to offer. On the Grand Princess, there are multiple pools. I think there are 3 main ones, including a large pool area with hot tubs and an outdoor area as well as one that's shaded. So in case it rains, you could still go swimming. This is where you can relax and soak in the beautiful views. If you're also wanting to stay active, there's a gym on board. I believe it was deck 15 with a variety of workout equipment. There's also walking tracks if you want to get some fresh air and exercise while cruising. This is something that we did a lot after eating the buffets. For those who like sports, the top decks feature a small multi-purpose court where you can play pickleball or basketball. There's also an area for table tennis right above the level of the buffet. However, just keep in mind that during our trip, these areas were usually pretty crowded. There was always a lot of people or kids there, so getting a spot might require some patience. The only time that these areas were empty was usually on excursion day, which just means that the cruise was on a port, either on Juneau, Skagway, or Ketchikan. Those were usually the days that the sport area was empty. My wife and I did not do any short excursions, so during those days we simply walked around looking at the nice sceneries, the nice streets, and just window shopping essentially. Anyway, now if relaxing is more your style, there are plenty of lounges and chill out spaces throughout the ship. Whether it's a cozy bar with live music, quiet reading room, or open deck with comfy chairs, there's always a place to unwind. There's also a place where you can play some board games. The ship offers some games that you can play on the ship. Now, let me just go over some of the food options that you can have on the cruise. If you're on the base fare, such as myself, you can go to these fine dining options. So, Michelangelo Dining Room. This is located on deck 5 and offers a variety of dishes. This Michelangelo Dining Room is walk-in only, but you do have to dress up for it. And personally, I just brought a dress shirt and I wore regular running shoes and black pants. That was fine. It's only typically open for dinner for the Michelangelo Dining Room and typically opens around 5 to 10 p.m. And there's also the option to have private seating or shared seating. So that was something interesting as well. Next, you can explore Da Vinci Dining Room, and this is reserved only, so no walk-in. And this is a place that we went 2-3 times during our cruise, and it has a similar menu as Michelangelo, but it's just like the fine dining option, and I really enjoyed this dining room. The next one that's included in the base fare is the Botticelli Dining Room. And similar as Da Vinci and Michelangelo, they had similar menus. However, on a day-to-day basis, the menu will change slightly. Next, obviously, you have the Horizon Court Buffet that's open pretty much all day. So I believe it was open as early as 6:30 in the morning, all the way to like 10 p.m. There is also the International Cafe, which is located in the Piazza. This cafe offers light bites, pastries, and there are some beverages and coffee that you need to pay for, but majority of the stuff there is included in the base fare. There's also Alfredo's Pizzeria, and this is actually pretty tasty. That was one of my favorite spots to eat. The pizzas here was amazing. There's also the Salty Dog Grill that's located beside the pool on one of the top decks and also on the same floor as the buffets. It has anything from gourmet burgers, hot dogs, and yeah, you can just order in and the chef will make it on the spot for you. Lastly, there is the Coffee and Cones, which is also on the same floor as the buffets. And you can get a nice ice cream here, but there are better options if you do pay for it. But the simple ice cream cone is free. For the specialty dining options, these are all restaurants we did not go to, but they include the Crown Grill, the Sabatini's Italian Trattoria, Chef's Table, Ultimate Balcony Dining, and the Crab Shack. Now, the Princess Theater was on deck 7, and it was actually on the same section where we lived, but we lived 2 floors down, so it was pretty convenient to go to the Princess Theater. And every evening on a cruise, there were shows to enjoy. One of the first ones I watched was a magician comedy act. This entertainer was so talented, honestly, it just feels like a Vegas show at that time. That really made me realize how much value the Grand Princess Cruise offers, especially when we paid basically the cheapest price to sleep in a no-window cabin. Over the entire trip, We saw 7 main shows because every single night there was a show, plus around 5 performances or so, such as comedy nights, singing acts, game shows, such as Deal or No Deal, or The Voice of Ocean, which was I found pretty cool. And as someone that really enjoys Deal or No Deal, that was a nice surprise as well, as I got to sit in the audience. Combined with the all-you-can-eat buffets every single day and other amenities, it really felt like we were getting a packed experience for the cost. Another nice surprise for me was also how often the housekeeping team made our beds. They did this pretty much 2 or 3 times a day. I wasn't expecting this at all, especially since we napped a lot after meals and would also mess up the beds. And every time we came back to our room, the bed was freshly made and tidy again. One really cool thing as well that I did not know as a first-time cruiser was that our cabin door would automatically unlock when we approach it. The medallion that we had would register as we get closer, and the door handle would light up green, and boom, you could walk right in without even looking for a key. And to me, this is actually such a cool feature. It made my life easier and added to the overall smooth experience on the Grand Princess. One of the best parts of cruising to Alaska on the Grand Princess, especially if you're doing a round trip from Vancouver such as us, is how much breathtaking scenery you get to see right away from the ship. You know, at the start, you see the nice, beautiful Vancouver views, and then you slowly make your way to Alaska. It was also pretty cool to watch such a nice view while working out. Anyway, as soon as you leave Vancouver, the views start. You're cruising through the Inside Passage, which is a protected stretch of coastline full of forested islands, calm waters, and these dramatic snow-capped mountains ranges on both sides as well. It honestly feels like you're floating through a nature documentary. You will also find those deep, narrow inlets carved by glaciers, and you'll see cliffs and waterfalls cascading down into the ocean. That was actually really nice to see, and I found myself spending a lot of time on deck 7. That is the deck that you can walk around the cruise ship, and I got to see glaciers on both sides. Also, it's really peaceful, especially during the early mornings when the water is like glass and everything's covered in mist. One of the highlights of our cruise was definitely the glacier viewing day, and on our itinerary, we got to see a glacier from the ship. It was pretty big, but we were pretty far away, so from the outside view and through video, it looked a little small. It's this towering wall of blue and white ice stretching across the bay. You might even catch a moment where chunks of ice break off, and this is a process called calving, and it will crash into the water. If you're into wildlife, make sure to keep your eyes peeled because from the ship, you can potentially see whales, sea otters, and if you're lucky and you have a binoculars, you might even spot some bears walking along the coast. Personally, I did see a couple of bald eagles flying over top. I also saw some whales, but it was just their fin. And I did not have a binoculars, so I couldn't see that clearly. And then there are the skies. Alaska has these incredible moody skies that shifts all day, misty mornings, dramatic clouds over the mountains, and then golden sunsets that stretch on for hours. Since we had an interior cabin with no windows, we naturally found ourselves spending most of our time outdoors. We didn't mind this because the room was cozy and perfect for sleeping, and we really just wanted to make the most of the ship and the scenery. Every chance we got, we were either up on the top deck, soaking in the fresh ocean air, or walking around exploring different parts of the ship. My wife spent a lot of time beside the pool as well, just reading her ebook. There's also something really special about standing at the railing of the cruise, feeling the breeze on your face, and just looking out at nothing but endless water in every single direction. No buildings, no cars, no noise except the ocean water, just ocean and sky. It really kind of transports you into another time, maybe. I remember standing there and thinking, this must be what it felt like for explorers or sailors centuries ago, just heading into the unknown. Honestly, I felt like Sinbad from Legend of the Seven Seas, or maybe some kind of pirate sailing through vast, mysterious waters, or exploring the water, basically. It was one of those rare moments in life where everything slows down. You take a deep breath, and for once, you're not thinking about your to-do list or checking your phone. You're just present, soaking in how big and beautiful and peaceful the world can be. And for me, that alone made the cruise worth it. Another thing for us as well is that we did not buy the cruise data plan. So on sea days, we didn't even have internet. So everything we could do is just slow down and relax. Our first stop in Alaska was going to be Juneau. And before we got off the ship, we actually made sure to eat a full breakfast at the buffet because we knew how much walking we will end up doing, and having that energy will make a big difference. So Juneau is the capital of Alaska, and it was such a nice welcome into the state. The moment we stepped off the ship, we were surrounded by mountains and this peaceful small town vibe that made us feel instantly relaxed. So even though Juneau is the capital of Alaska, did you know that an interesting fact is that it is the only US state capital that you can't drive into? There are no roads that connect it to the rest of the state. It's completely surrounded by mountains and waters, so you can only get there by boat or plane. That gives it a really unique, tucked away feel, like a small city hidden in the wilderness. Even though we didn't book any short excursions, just walking around Juneau was a great experience. There were colorful little shops, local seafood places, many souvenir shops as well, and it just felt like both a quiet and full of life at the same time for the city. After a few hours of exploring and walking, we finally made our way back to the ship and made our first dinner reservation at the Da Vinci dining room. It was super easy to book. You can either use the Medallion app or just speak to one of the crew members. Because most people were still off the ship doing excursions at the time, the dining room was almost empty. We basically had the place to ourselves, and it was such a peaceful, relaxing meal. Great service, good food, calm atmosphere. You do have to wear somewhat nicer clothing, so I did wear a dress shirt, and it was just the perfect way to end our first full day in Alaska. The Princess Cruise also prints something called the Princess Patter for you every day. It's a little newsletter that tells you all the scheduled events, dining hours, and activities happening around the ship. If you don't want to use the paper version, you can also open the Princess app, which shows everything that is happening in real time. We checked it every day to see what events were going on around the ship, and there's even the option for you to favorite or heart the event so that it can show up on your own personal schedule on the app. Since we came back to the cruise boat early, after eating dinner at the fine dining place, we also spent time up on the top deck of the Grand Princess just taking in the Juneau scenery. From up there, you will get a wide variety of the harbor and surrounding mountains. So at Juneau, a popular excursion would be the Mount Robert Tramway. That's the bright red cable car going up the side of the mountain, and you can definitely see nice views at the top. The weather here was slightly chilly, but it's similar to Vancouver, so just bring a light jacket and you will be fine. Later in the evening, we also watched a Canadian hula hooper performer who was fun to watch, and here's just a snippet of her doing some of her stunts.
One! Yes!
The next morning, we arrived in Skagway. This is our second stop in Alaska and a town with a totally different vibe from Juneau. It's much smaller and it has a rugged frontier charm that makes you feel like you've stepped back in time a bit. Now, during our visit, there had recently been some rock slides in the area near the cruise port, so for safety reasons, everyone had to take the shuttle bus from the ship into downtown Skagway. It was a short ride and pretty well organized. but just something to be aware of in case you're visiting soon this year in 2025. Skagway is most famous for one particular excursion. It is the White Pass and Yukon Route Railway. It's actually one of the most popular excursions on the Alaska cruises, and it's easy to see why. The train takes you on this historic route that climbs through the mountains into Yukon, following the same trail used during the Klondike Gold Rush. It's a narrow gauge railway with these vintage style cars, and you get to sit there by big windows or even step into the little outdoor platform at the back for fresh airs and photos. The views are unreal, just judging from the photos, since you pass through waterfalls, deep gorges, wooden trestle bridge, and mountain peaks that seems to go on forever. It's something that I would probably do, but due to cost, I did not. So if you have the extra funds, definitely go and check that out. So a little bit more detail about this train ride is that it's a round trip train ride that lasts about 2.5 to 3 hours. So if you're planning to make it back in time for your cruise, make sure to keep that hour in mind as well. Some quick facts about Skagway. It used to be booming gold rush town in the late 1800s. At its peak, it had around 10,000 people living there, but today it has shrunk down to around 1,200 people. It's still one of the most visited ports in Alaska because of its rich history and beautiful landscape. Downtown Skagway feels like a living museum. A lot of the buildings are preserved or restored from that gold rush era, with wooden boardwalks, old-timey saloons, and storefronts that look like they're straight out of a Western movies. It's a small but charming and walkable. After walking around Skagway, we made our way back to our Grand Princess ship because one of the highlights of the day was actually getting to see husky puppies up close. A local musher brought two of them on board as part of an enrichment talk, and the owner shared how his family has been involved in sled dog racing for generations. In fact, his grandfather was one of the early pioneers of the sport. He talked about what it was like training the dogs, racing through snow-covered trails, and living that remote Alaskan lifestyle. It was really interesting, and having the puppies there made the whole experience so much more engaging. After that, we headed off for dinner, went to the buffet again, and we were able to get seats pretty easily because, once again, in Skagway, most of the people were doing excursions at this time. Later in the evening, we explored a few more areas of the ship and looked at the nice scenery, and then we made our way to the theater for yet another live performance. And this time, it was a full-on dance show. The dancers were all very talented and professional, and it's just another great example of how much value the cruise gives you for entertainment alone. Skagway may have been a small town, but the day really felt full, from learning about the history, seeing those train tracks winding through the mountains, to also seeing husky puppies and ending the night with a great show. It's one of those days that really shows you the range of experiences you can have on the Alaska cruise. A little bit of nature, a little bit of history, and a little bit of cute, and a lot of fun. As we left Skagway later that evening, we got to experience another beautiful part of the cruise, which is the sunset. The skies were glowing in soft shades of orange and pink, and the mountains were silhouetted perfectly against the horizon. It was peaceful, quiet, and honestly one of my favorite parts of the day. And this is when you should go to the deck 7, and this is where I filmed this content here. And it's really nice because once again, you can walk around the boat on this deck level. After this, we went back to our room to unwind, and no surprise, our beds are fully made once again. The following day was a scenic cruising day through Endicott Arm and Dawes Glacier, and this area was absolutely breathtaking. Unlike other stops, we didn't get to go off the ship here. Instead, the whole day was about soaking in the views from the deck, lounges, or even your own cabin if you had a window or balcony. Endicott Arm is this long, narrow fjord lined with steep cliffs, waterfalls, and floating chunks of glacier ice as you see here. At the end of the fjord is Dawes Glacier, this massive blue and white glacier that looks like it belongs on a postcard. The water around it was filled with icebergs of all different sizes, and the air felt a little colder and crisp as we got closer. A few people even claimed that they saw some seals here, although I did not see it myself, so maybe they saw some moving water or maybe they actually saw a seal. One cool fact about Endicott Arm is that it's part of the Tracy Arm Fjords Terrace Wilderness. This is a protected area known for its untouched natural beauty. Dawes Glacier, which sits at the end of the fjord, is actually one of the few tidewater glaciers in the world, meaning that it flows all the way down to the sea. If you're lucky, you might even see some glaciers crashing down into the water below. During this sea day, we also treated ourselves to another fine dining dinner, this time at the Michelangelo dining room. It's one of the main dining options included in the base fare, and it did not disappoint. Even though we didn't get off the ship, there was also plenty to do on board. We watched passengers take part in dance classes, and there's live music performance all around. There's just something about being out at sea that makes you reflect. Life really is short, and moments like these remind you to slow down and enjoy what's right in front of you. Anyway, the next morning we arrived in Ketchikan, our third Alaskan port. Ketchikan is known as the salmon capital of the world, and is one of the homes of largest collections of totem poles in existence. It has a rich native heritage and this cozy coastal town energy that's both welcoming and vibrant. Creek Street is one of Ketchikan's most famous attractions. This is a boardwalk street built on stilts over a creek. In the early 1900s, it was actually a red light district during the gold rush, where gentlemen would go to visit the women. Today, it's a charming shopping area with art galleries, souvenir shops, and salmon swimming upstream below during spawning season. Eventually, we made our way back to the ship and enjoyed yet another fine dining experience. This time, it was at the Botticelli dining room. At this point, I could really get used to this kind of treatment. Great food every night, no cooking or dishes to worry about. The evening entertainment was packed once again. We caught some live music and watched some people sing. We even watched a comedy show and even got to see the voice of the ocean. This was a fun singing competition where passengers actually perform and compete for a little cruise ship trophy. Honestly, some of them were pretty good, but I found out later on that one of the contestants who actually ended up winning this competition was a professional singer, which I don't know how I feel about that. The final full day on the Grand Princess was yet another sea day as we made our way back towards Vancouver. It was a slower paced day and honestly, a perfect chance to wind down and soak in the last moments of the cruise. We spent the day enjoying the ship's amenities one more time, watching the ocean views pass by from the deck, relaxing by the pool, and of course, eating. We enjoyed one last fine dining experience, making the most of everything that was included. Later in the evening, there was a farewell show where many of the entertainers from throughout the week came together to perform one last time in their own act. I didn't record this because I was just too caught up in the moment, enjoying the performances, the atmosphere, and really just appreciating everything this trip has offered so far. As the cruise came to an end, I found myself reflecting on a few things. Life moves fast, and it's easy to get caught up in work, bills, and routines. But trips like this reminds you that we all need to take time to slow down, relax, and really enjoy life with the people we love. Money isn't just for saving, it's also meant to be used to create memories, to explore, and to recharge. That being said, being financially responsible still matters. It's all about finding a balance. Save smart, but don't forget to live in the moment as well. Because at the end of the day, experiences like this are what you'll remember the most. My wife and I honestly enjoyed this trip a lot. I got the best sleep of my life because there was no windows in my room. I drank unlimited coffee, iced tea, and iced lemonade. And the shows were great, food was amazing. Overall, I'd give this Grand Princess cruise a high rating and would definitely do it again in the future. Anyway, thanks so much again for watching my video. My name is Javin and I left my referral code down below because apparently if you sign up using that, we both get a $25 onboard credit to the cruise, which is pretty cool. And now, as much as I've loved cruising Alaska, I'm really just looking forward to go back home and seeing my feline kids once again. So here's Zoe, and here's Toby, who is the grumpy one all the time. Lovely boy. If you found this video useful or informative, feel free to just let me know down in the comments below, and maybe I can make more similar ones in the future. It took me a long time to make, so any feedback would be appreciated. Peace out.